Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, as usual, we have a few dedicated warriors in the classroom. For those that are online far away, if you are able to make it out, please try to do so. I think the next time I'm going to teach this course, I will make maybe 10% of the course, 10 to 20% worth for attendance, just because it kind of defeats the purpose if I was to show up one day and nobody's here. Well, that's one of my students. I think he's going to go around the other way. So that's good. We got at least three of you here. So that's good. But we want to, inshallah, try to see more people here because like that's kind of like, I don't know, like it's a sign of even more important than reciprocity. It's more to do with like just a sign of dedication and commitment. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of shayukh here that they put in a lot of effort to build these courses and to teach them. And like the least we could ask in return is just some simple attendance. And also it's because we want you guys to be in the masjid, right? We know your life gets busy, my life gets busy too, but it's nice if we all try to attend the mosque every once in a while just to maintain that connection with the house of Allah Azza wa Jal. All right, so for today we're at lesson number 5, and what we're going to cover today is I'm going to show you multiple dawah organizations that exist in the world today, assalamu alaikum, that you can basically learn from, right? So we'll look at like IERA, an Islamic online university, which is now called International Open University. We'll look at some of their resources. We'll also look at some major du'ats that are still living today, and then some of the OGs or the originals that kind of paved the way for dawah in the West. So I'll be mentioning some of the main names in today's lesson. And then I'm also going to talk about some good primary resources that you guys can use to build your dawah library, right? Because there are a lot of books out there. The good news is that a lot of them are downloadable for free. So you don't necessarily have to invest hundreds of dollars to build this library. I actually personally recommend that if you can, make 90% plus of your library just on your laptop. There was a time in my life where I spent, I don't know how many thousand on trying to build a bookshelf. And then I realized I was like, man, I could actually download 95% of these books on the computer. Why am I spending all my money this way? What if what happened to Imam Ghazali happens to me one day? This, I don't want to make this into like story time here, but Imam Ghazali was traveling one day and he was attacked by a bunch of bandits, right? And they went and they were going to take all of his notes and all of his basically his books, his works, right? And that's when he realized that he needed to dedicate things to memory. Now we're living in special times now where you can just download everything onto a cloud drive as a secondary backup on top of your computer, but it's also a lot lighter to carry, right? And so it's good to have a backup plan. But if you have all raw textbooks, it's hard for you to carry that all around with you. So I think we should make use of the technology we have today. We can also save some money doing that. But at the end of the day, the choice is yours. And lastly, we're going to look at some growth tips as a da'i, because sometimes you need to have a bit of an emotional pep talk on what to expect when you're giving street dawah and what are some of the key ayat and ahadith that du'at should know about, right? Because there will be times when somebody might want to spit in your face. There will be times when somebody will try to slander you online, whether they tell you about it or they don't tell you about it. If you come from if you have relatives in your family that are, non-Muslim, then that's another clash that you might have to deal with, right? So, and then obviously there's the media. And if you ever have a big following after you, then if people find out about you, don't be surprised if you're going to have Western propaganda thrown at you on, how you're some crazy evil terrorist, right? Trying to destroy the minds of everyone around you. So just be ready for that, but know the ayat and ahadith that we're going to look at today are going to help to kind of build up the momentum we were talking about last week when we were talking about the hadith about the hanging papers, and that these people who will revive essentially the Quran and Sunnah, who will preach the Quran and Sunnah in modern day times, that these are the people who have the greatest iman. And they'll be alongside the iman of the Anbiya, and alongside the iman of the malaika, of the angels. So this is a very high maqam for a da'i to call to Islam at a time where not everybody's doing it anymore, right? That's a lot of surprises today. Who knows? There might be a jiu-jitsu match coming in because they got kids running in and out from one room to another. All right, so let's get to this. Okay, so these are some of the Islamic institutions that I know of. There could be obviously way more than this, The nice thing about most of these resources is a lot of them are free or extremely low in terms of cost. Yeah, we still have the TV running, so that's good. All right, so I3 Institute, they now have a program called the Muslim Blueprint. They used to have a program called the Young Da'i program, but it's very similar. So in addition to teaching you da'wah, they would give you the same advice that I gave you last week, which was try to learn all the Islamic sciences at least on a foundational level. Take at least one course from one essentially from a reputable scholar, but also with one reputable text to anchor you in each Islamic science. So something in usul hadith, the principles of hadith, something in tafsir, something in aqidah, something preferably in an aqidah course that talks about classical issues and modern day issues, because the issues are not necessarily the same. We're not in the same times where you will find people online saying, oh, this guy's Ashari, this guy's Mu'tazili, this guy is Maturidi, this guy is Athari. And some people will still be arguing about that stuff. But I would say 90% of the time, especially in the West, they're going to be arguing about atheism and agnosticism and secularism. So it's good to know the past issues that might still have some relevance and the future case issues that you are more than likely to run into living in this country today. So IERA could definitely help with that. Another option is Islamic Online University. Back when I was a little younger with a little bit less white hair, a lot of this stuff was completely free. So Islamic Online University, which is now called International Open University, they used to have free diplomas in Aqidah, diplomas in Hadith, diplomas in Fiqh and contemporary issues, and what's it called? And Nawazil, right? So they had a lot of different topics, but now, unfortunately, there's at least some fee, even with all the diploma programs. I'm not saying it's a crazy fee, but there is a bit of a fee involved. And it's a little bit more expensive to go with the next option, which is Mishka University. I used to study with them as well. And they're based in America, but they took scholars mainly from Al-Azhar University and Saudi, mixed them together, and then presented it in the West, and then built essentially an institution in the West to teach. Predominantly, everything is online. So I'm mentioning it because it's very rigorous, it's very structured. The faculty is very high quality. You can tell, like when you go in there and you look at the English or the Arabic faculty, how almost everybody has a master's or a PhD in Sharia or Aqidah. So they have a very astute faculty that is delivering the content. This is at Mishka University, Jamiatul Mishka. So it's taught in both the English and Arabic medium. You can choose, right? But all their master's programs is specifically in Arabic, but the bachelor program is in English. And this is more of like having a degree component, like bachelor's and master's, as opposed to like individual diplomas. But it's going to give you a wide variety of, essentially, you're going to get the breadth of covering all the coursework. I would look at it as like, it's going to cost you maybe like half of going to college here. Like say compared to like Fanshawe College, right? It's probably about half the price of that. It could be higher than since the last time I checked, but it's an option for those who really want to start growing, right? Because I'm mentioning it because it's reputable. Obviously with the IDA, you guys have this kind of golden ticket where you don't have to pay for a lot of stuff that is overlapping with the IOU and with Mishka University. So I would definitely take advantage of what's local for the time being. But if you feel like there's more that you want to do afterwards, these are some options because both IOU and Mishka have bachelor's and master's programs. Allahu Alam, they might even have PhD by this point. I3 has some material. They're based out of Mississauga though, so not everything is going to be local. IERA. IERA is mainly in the UK. But they have expanded so much that they now have essentially chapters in most Western countries, right? So that's why you're going to see a lot of times that the London Muslim Mosque will be advertising for IERA because they have some people, like I think in Toronto or the GTA, coming down here to essentially offer training programs, usually weekend warrior programs, come for 2-3 day intensives, and then to actually run dawah workshops and essentially use the mosque as a place to do open house and invite people in for discussion.
They come and they talk about Jesus.
Yes, when they did they called the Jesus seminar, and then they also did another program. Had another name. I can't remember what it was, but Usually about 2 events a year they do. The other one was related to the open house. So they came and they basically brought like 10, 15 people, and you saw them like they were wearing those like blue vests or whatever. But yeah, so IER stands for Islamic Education Research Academy. Originally, it had some of the founders were like Sheikh Hamza Sorsis, who we'll talk about today, Sheikh Mohammed Al Hijab, and these are great du'ats that are still alive today from the UK. The nice thing is that even if you don't get to meet them personally, a lot of their stuff is available on the internet, on YouTube. You can look at their online dawah, debates, discussions, their lectures, their seminars. So there's a lot of wealth from knowing these people, which we'll talk about more in this particular lesson. Seekers Hub, this is another good free option. So the difference obviously is it's not 100% local, but not far off, right? So we're talking again about the GTA area. This is, I think, as well in Mississauga, but the majority of the stuff that they have is online based. So I remember taking multiple courses with them. So they teach the madhahib individually. So they focus on the Hanafi, Shafi'i, and the Maliki madhab. They don't focus on the Hanbali school for whatever reason. I don't want to get into it. They have Aqidah classes, they have Arabi classes, they have Tazkiyah classes. So there's a wide range of courses from reputable scholars. And it's very much like module based, right? And it's not stuff that you would, for whatever reason, they don't really do a lot of tests. It's more like, for most, at least for most classes that I've seen, is you literally just tick the box. It's like an honesty thing, like, yeah, I listened to this lecture, this lecture, this lecture. But again, at the end, you're not going to get like an official accreditation. It's not going to be like, okay, now I have a degree. But it gives you material from reputable scholars. It is online, and the vast majority of it is self-paced, right? With a few exceptions of some classes have to be are synchronous, meaning that they're timed, but usually there's not really any penalty for being late. And cost-wise, they say they're open to donations, but up until now, with I think they have now over 200 courses that none of them technically you have to pay for, right? So it's completely optional. So it's good to know that there's a lot of stuff if you guys want to take a look at it. So these are some options that are available, that are Western, that are English speaking dominant. Like I said, there will be some Arabic streams with Mishka University, but the vast majority of the stuff that I'm giving you is mainly taught in the English language. It's made for people living in the West to help people in the West. I think there's one last thing on this slide is that if you do want some hands-on practice with street dawah, now you don't have to do it with any organization. You could do it completely Han Solo on your own, right? You can be the Jedi Knight going out there to fight the dark force of Dalala, of misguidance. That's totally up to you. But if you want to work as a jama'ah with people who are also doing the same work, then again, IERA partnered with London Muslim Mosque have programs for when they go out and they usually do their street dawah at Victoria Park in the downtown area. And sometimes they used to use the London Public Library also in the downtown area. In that case, they would set up tables with pamphlets. When they do it in Victoria Park, they usually just go either right up to people, or there might be one table, but there'll be also people just kind of walking around wearing like the vests to grab people's attention. And then they basically have to do an icebreaker and just get them to start talking about not necessarily religion at first, maybe more like what's the purpose of life, or what do you think the purpose of life is? And then they might say, well, maybe money, maybe fame, maybe family. These are some very common answers, right? And then you might ask them, well, how would you know for sure if this is the reason why you exist, right? Because if it's just like what I think and what you think, then how do we know what's right? And then you can start to gravitate them towards, well, if there is a creator and if he left us signs for us to know that he created the universe and they're all consistently accurate, then we need to find out what that creator would want from us. If we had access to a book that had over 1,000 scientific signs consistently, accurately telling us exactly how the creator created us, why we're here, how the universe began, how we're here right now, and where we're going in the future. If we had access to this book right now, would you like to read it? Would you like to see it? And then you can basically segue to, well, I'm talking about the Quran. And then obviously there's going to be some questions coming at your way, but I'm just saying this is one way you could kind of open the discussion. Another way, obviously, a little bit less in your face, is just somebody that you've known for a really long time. It's a lot easier that if you have like a classmate or somebody that, I don't know, every time you go to the same coffee shop, you always say hi to somebody, right? It's a lot easier when you already have built up rapport, or maybe a family member that you've known for 10 or 15 years. But it's not impossible for it to be technically a random stranger. Yeah, it's going to feel kind of weird at first. And you know what? You don't really have to plan for it either. It might just kind of come up like it's like, so why are you wearing that thing right now? Right? Or like, or you, I don't know, you can find a way that you can segue into the topic. That I'm just saying is like there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of different angles you can approach this. Not really one cut and dry cookie cutter approach for how to give dawah or who to give dawah with. You can do it on your own or you can do it as a group. By the way, I guess I'm flexing if I say I'm in this photo right here, right? This is me like 15 years ago, probably, right? And everybody else here is they're all from London, right? But most of these people are all grown up. I think this one guy's in Saudi right now. All right, so from ilm to amal, from knowledge to action, right? So these are some different initiatives you can use, and it basically fills the function of dawah, but it's not necessarily only street dawah, right? There are other ways you can invite people to Islam. So it's very important that we think about this kind of stuff because a lot of times, especially when I used to teach at an Islamic school, a lot of the younger kids would be like, I'm too young for this, you know what I mean? Like, wait till I get older, or like, shouldn't I be like a teacher or like an imam or a sheikh or a sheikha before I start thinking about this kind of stuff, right? And most of these kids, they're on social media, right? Social media is a great place to start doing a dawah platform. Make a Facebook or a YouTube or a WhatsApp or a Twitter account based on this stuff, right? Make a YouTube shorts or whatever you want to do. There's a lot of different options. You can start your own halaqat and you can invite non-Muslims to come afterwards. You can have book clubs. You can basically make your own dawah organization. Like I said, social media, we already talked about that. You can build your own organizations, make your own affiliations with masajid. You don't necessarily have to follow suit with everyone else. You can build something else and do ta'awun al-birri wa taqwa. You can cooperate in goodness and God-fearingness afterwards. Obviously, street dawah is an option. I mentioned the two options at the public library and then the downtown with the tables at the Central Park. But then there's also some people are a little bit more introverted, right? But they have a lot of knowledge or they're really good at expressing themselves on paper, right? I've met a lot of people like this, like they're the article type of person, right? They might not want to stand on top in front of us on a stage in front of like 1,000 people, but if you give them a pen and a pad, or if you give them like an option to blog online or to make posts and discussions or write web articles or write in a journal, all of a sudden they can write a novel worth of information about guiding people to Islam. So if you feel like that's more your type, where you prefer to put things in writing, then you might want to design your own magazine or join a magazine that already exists. Like for example, there's a Ramadan magazine that's coming out, in a week or so. I think Sheikh, sorry, what's his name? Ali Shahbar, he runs the thing, right? But if he's pretty well known in the community. But if he gets to know you and he knows that you're active, he'll probably reach out to you and say, "Do you want to put your a nice article, like a 300 word or 500 word article in the magazine, right? You don't have to think just necessarily just London, right? If we're talking about like online magazines, could be something across Canada, the US, Britain. There's a lot of different options. You can also write books, PDFs, newsletters. There's the sky's the limit. Um, and then the simple things is like you don't necessarily have to give dawah on the spot. Sometimes it's better to invite somebody over for dinner, take them out for coffee, I don't know, go play pool together, right? Find out something you can do that would basically put you in the situation that when they're comfortable, then you might want to discuss like, what's your plans for like, after you die? And they'll be like, what? What do you mean plans? I'm going to be in my grave. What am I supposed to plan? Right? Well, I mean, like for the questions, what questions? The questions the angels are going to ask you, right? And then they're really going to be confused, right? Because they're going to be like, what questions? How do you know about these questions, right? But anyways, you could put it together however you want, but it doesn't have to be done necessarily on the spot. The main issue with needing to respond is if they're already asking you. If they're asking you, then yeah, give them the answers that they're looking for. But if you're kind of the ball's in your court, you can kind of approach it how you want to approach it. Lastly, we should always remember that dawah isn't only inviting, but like we said before last week, or I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, it's also about making sure that Muslims become better Muslims from within our circle. Ad-din and nasiha, advising people to become better. So that also includes our new Muslim converts who just became Muslim, who maybe for the first few weeks, few months, they're going to be a little bit on the weak side, unless they're like at the mosque on a regular basis, or if they're like super into it right from the get-go. But usually they're a little bit on the fragile side. So you want to maybe try to consider mentoring a brand new convert, right? And if you want to know about where you would find them, the London Muslim Mosque has a buddy system or a mentorship program where they've been doing this for many years now. I don't know how many years exactly, but I would say it's got to be at least 10 years because I converted to Islam when maybe around 14 years ago, and they already had the buddy system back then where they would assign people that would normally come to the mosque. They had a list and they would just be like, this guy's new, he needs a buddy, right? And they would have one for the sister side and one for the brother's side. I guess I did. I don't know if they officially announced that this is your buddy, but I remember that his name is Hazm. I think his last name is Al Sadaq or something like that. This guy really went out of his way to help me out. Like I remember when I was living at my mom's house, they had a dog, and I was like running away from this dog because I didn't know I could even consider the Maliki opinion at that time. And my mom was looking at me like I'm a crazy person. She's saying, I'd rather you be gay than Muslim. And I was like, well, this is a pretty rough few weeks of becoming a Muslim. And then Hazem just drives on up. He's like, come on, let's go out somewhere. Took me out for shawarma, let me stay at his house for the night, just hang out. And that was really nice at the beginning phases because one of my brothers, I'm only mentioning this stuff to you so you can understand the hardship of what converts go to or go through, is that one of my brothers was like, you used to be so cool. You used to be a rapper. You used to do this and that. Now you put your face on the floor 5 times a day, right? Like just taking shots at me, right? And my other brother's an atheist, so you can only imagine what kind of conversations that would spur, right? It's Richard Dawkins versus Islam kind of conversations. So this is normal for a person who grows up here, right? So if there is somebody who has no mentor, then maybe consider helping somebody out who's brand new until they feel like they're solid, they're on their feet. I think they would appreciate it. So here's some key du'at. Most of them are living. A few of them are recent, like recently passed away, but most of the people here are still alive and busy in the da'wah. So the first one, his name is Sheikh Ahmed ibn Farouk. He's from America. He's a Hanbali scholar. He's a very well-known da'i. He's the type of guy that will go through America in the streets doing street da'wah with the Bible in hand, and he can obviously pull out the Quran as well. And he's amazing at like being put under pressure and then just handling it with such ease, with such finesse. Like you'll see sometimes I remember watching this one video, it was like David Wood and like two of the other, like the big Christian evangelist guys, like the main guys who hate on Islam. And all three of them came at him at once and he handled it perfectly, right? So if you want to see somebody with like hands-on experience, he's got so many videos, hundreds of videos, and I think he posts something every week on YouTube. So just something to consider. Obviously, I don't have a paid version of Zoom, so it's telling me you got 10 minutes, buddy. You're on crunch time. But you know what? Who knows? I think I could do it. I think I could do it. Let's give it a shot. So the next guy, Ahmed Didat, he's like one of the OGs. So in 2005, rahimahullah, is when he passed away. So it wasn't that long ago. But if you were to ask people from like 15 years ago, 15 to 30 years ago, like who do you listen to for like how to learn about Islam, like in a Western world, like this is the name you're gonna hear. It's just Ahmed Didat. If I ask anybody who's like just 10 years older than me, this is the name I'm gonna hear right away. His videos are still online. A lot of them have been preserved on YouTube. He's still worth listening to. And he did a phenomenal job, and he has multiple books, like probably over a dozen books you can download for free off Kalam Allah, or if you just Google Ahmed Didat books, you'll find books like The Choice and The Combat Kit for Bible Thumpers and all these other nice, neat books that he has. His student is actually on the bottom half of this slide. So Dr. Zakir Naik, and he is extremely, extremely impressive. Like the person who like just blew my mind in terms of like the skills that he has. out of everyone is actually this guy, Dr. Zakir Naik, because he speaks English, he speaks Urdu, he memorized the Quran, he looks like he memorized the entire Bible. It seems like he's memorized hundreds, if not thousands, of ahadith, and without looking at it, like just on the spot, if he's asked the question, like he can quote 10 verses of the Bible on one topic and then quote 10 things from the Quran on the same topic, and he does it with like zero hesitation, right? So and on top of that, he also, because I guess his background being Pakistani, and obviously Pakistan's next to India. India used to be one nation, and then it's split into Pakistan and India. But he also knows the Hindu Vedas, and he quotes the Hindu Vedas as well. So imagine, like, if this guy was dealing with a Christian and an atheist and a Hindu at the same time, he could refute them, prove to them Islam is true, and quote their books all at once, right? So when you watch this guy online, he's really amazing. And that's why when you see his videos on Peace TV, you'll see he's like in an auditorium and there's like 10,000 plus people there, right? And there are people that are converting like by the tens, if not by the hundreds, right? So he's extremely skilled, definitely worth looking at. If you want to listen to a lecture series just based on Islam and science, he has a 4 hour, 2 hour times 2 part series, Islam and Modern Science. I think that's a good place to start. If you just want to sit back with some popcorn, don't necessarily want to open the books right away, I think that the Quran and Modern Science by Dr. Zakir Naik, I would definitely recommend watching it, getting your friends and your relatives to watch it. It's a good starting point. Then there's somebody named Hamza Tzortzis. This is a little bit more on the academic side because he has a master's in philosophy. But for the people who like philosophical arguments and they want to basically argue about epistemology, like the study of studying, the study of knowing, and if you know somebody like that, or if they want to look at everything like based on logic versus logical fallacies and the idea of what even is morality. So this guy would definitely help build that argument for you. And he wrote a book called, I think it's coming up in the slides, let me just zoom ahead. I think I have it in here. If not, what was it? Something the divine, is it the divine light, the divine truth? Something like that. If you just look up his name, yeah, that's it. That's it. Not the divine light, the divine reality. So that book is written in the lens of using philosophy to prove that Islam is true. So you might meet somebody like this. They do exist. They're a little rare, but I remember when I was at Western that there was my philosophy professor. I took it as not as a minor, but just as an elective course. And he was trying to, just mention like just absolutely ridiculous stuff. Like he was like, this is a chair, but how do you know that this is a chair, right? Like, what if this isn't even real? I was thinking to myself, like, what if I threw it at your head? Would you duck, or would you say, is it real? Because they make you doubt everything. But if you're dealing with somebody who's like that, they're like, what if, what if, what if? Which, by the way, there's a hadith that says that saying what if is from shaitan. Just a side note, but that's what it is like dealing with people who are really into philosophy, right? So if you know somebody like that, then this guy might help you to know how to deal with that audience. And then we got Bilal Phillips. I used to listen to him a lot when I first became Muslim. Obviously, he has a number of courses on the Islamic Online University, now called International Online University, because he founded it. It's his creation. He is considered the brainchild of this online university, which is not fully accredited worldwide, but at least it is accredited in, I think, Gambia. And the thing is, it's not that the material is not good enough. It's just that accreditation has to do with governments and what they consider good enough, right? So it's not about the content from an Islamic perspective. It's just about government compliance, right? But there's a lot of good stuff on there. Obviously, he has some good credentials as well, studying his in Medina and Riyadh. And then Muhammad Hijab. Normally, when people think of like somebody who's really into street dawah in our times, especially online in the UK, somebody who's like he gets really into it, this is usually one of the main people that come up, right? Now, some of the debates that I see with people like Muhammad Hijab and others, sometimes it can be a little bit inflammatory. I'm just being honest with you guys, right? Like sometimes you listen to some debates and it's like, I don't know if I would have approached it from that angle, but nobody can deny his high level of intelligence and his ability to articulate strong arguments when he wants to do so. He has multiple master's degrees and multiple things, and he's definitely an academic. but he also has a very like I don't know, almost like a humble approach to when he talks to people, he talks to people like at their level, you know what I mean? But he has a lot of interesting stuff on YouTube, so he's worth taking a look at. And he deals a lot with refutations, including people who have deviant understandings of Islam, so deviant sects in Islam. He is very good at clarifying those issues. And then we have Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, not the boxer, but a different Muhammad Ali, the Muslim Lantern, as his nickname or his kunya, his laqab is online. He is very structured, academic, and evidence based. And he's really good with if you're dealing with atheists, because atheists are all about give me the scientific article, give me the reference, give me the peer reviewed journal. This guy can do that and preach Islam at the same time and make really strong deductive arguments that he can make it very simple for somebody who's not like that. But at the same time, if you are dealing with somebody who's just like science this, science that, this guy is a very good resource for basically seeing how you would deal with this in the 21st century. So I highly recommend listening to him. Like he's very vast in his skill sets. He can do street dawah no problem, but he can also do the academic stuff as well. And the last point here in the bottom here was just like focus on those who are most open-minded, because you're going to find that those people that are most likely willing to accept Islam. If you're dealing with somebody who's just purely argumentative, low on the priority list. I'm not saying you can't focus on it. It's just that priority-wise, whoever's the most open-minded, generally speaking, we're going to give them precedence. And because I know I'm probably like on the like last 3 out of the 10 minutes of Zoom, I'm going to speed through a few things. So some of this stuff I'll tell you to just kind of read on your own, because it's just about like having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. The people who generally in religion and in professional work life, growth mindset is the way to be. You always feel like you can improve at things. And when you have this mindset and when you build habits that are around productivity, it's going to affect you in positive ways, full circle. That's basically what this slide is telling you about. And then this slide is telling us that when you deal with struggles, understand that this is the sunnah of the prophets. This is the way and the lifestyle that they lived. There's a hadith by Sa'id ibn Abi Waqqas, radiallahu anhu, who reported that the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu he said to the Messenger of Allah, that, O Messenger of Allah, والسلام, which people are tested most severely? So the Messenger of Allah, والسلام, said, they are the prophets. Then the next best, then the next best. A man is put to trial according to his religion. If he is firm in his religion, his trials will be more severe. If he is weak in his religion, he is put to trial according to his strength in religion. The servant will continue to be put to trial until he is left walking upon the earth without any sin. The hadith is sahih according to Shaykh Albani, and it's in the collection of Sunnah Tirmidhi. And obviously the Prophet also told us, Ballighu ani walau ayah. Convey even one ayah. So whatever you can give, it's enough to get started, right? Abu Bakr was giving da'wah within about 24 hours of becoming Muslim, and he is considered the best of the Sahaba, and that's obviously from the line of non-prophets, right? And so, and the first hadith is